am your host, Jennifer Sertl. Thank you so much for joining Think, Build, Launch. This program is an extension of Marl Startup Studio. Marl Startup Studio was started to support students and first-time founders of all ages while they're at the idea stage of their startup. We believe there are so many innovative ideas in our community that get missed simply because people do not have the structure to take their idea into an actionable plan. And that's exactly what we do. Today, we have guest Olivia Goldstein, the Chief Operating Officer of Upstate Venture Connect. I am so excited for you to talk to her. She has visited over 30 countries. She has lived in both Russia and India. And she started her career executing roadshows for international startups and advising them on how to enter the U.S. market. She founded Rep Hike, a marketing software for influencers and brand ambassadors that was so successful it actually was acquired. So not only does she have experience in market entry and global market, she also is described as a silver bullet because of her ability to really navigate complexity in an easy yet understandable way. And as a founder, having an exit and also working at Upstate Venture Connect, there's so much we can learn from Olivia. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jen, for having me here.
That's fantastic. So can you share a little bit, many of the people on our program are people that are startups that are just beginning to build their plan, beginning to do some pitches, having been through the process and had a successful exit. Can you share something that you wished you would have done differently when you were at the ideation stage?
Yeah, absolutely. So just for context, Rep Hike, as you described it, influencer marketing brand ambassador software. When we first launched it, we weren't that, right? And which I think this is what a lot of founders find when they're first kind of thinking through what their product is and finding product market fit. So initially when we started, we were more focused on like the college brand ambassador space. And that was really a result of our own experiences in trying to find college brand ambassadors and the challenges that came with it. So really what happened is we decided we wanted to put in this idea to test and in the market quickly. So that's essentially what we did is we built like kind of V1 easy, small prototype to get it out there and get it in front of customers and start trying to kind of understand what are the things that our target customers really want and are looking for. So the sooner that, as you're kind of at this ideation stage and kind of trying to test your product, that you can get out there and start talking to people, the better. And you really don't have to wait for that perfect product because what you'll find is you'll go through so many iterations as you start to really learn what your customers want. So like I said, we started in this college brand ambassador space. And what we found is we kind of had in our early traction is a lot of our customers were coming back to us and being like, okay, this is great, to be able to find, college students that can promote our products, but we don't necessarily care if they're in college, right? So we were like, okay, how can we like expand upon that and what does that look like? So we went through a couple different iterations of and brainstorming in terms of like what does the next version of this product look like that can better service our customers and help us grow faster and get more of those customers. And what the result was really like this kind of brand ambassador influencer marketing software. And this was going back like 5 or 6 years ago. When it was, influencer marketing now is a pretty saturated market, but at the time it was still so new, and there was, TikTok hadn't even taken off to where it is now, that it made a lot of sense for us to kind of squeeze our way in there and really join the growth as like brands were spending more and more money on influencer marketing. Specifically for us, it was on Instagram. So I think a lot of it comes down to what does the market want? What do your customers want? And that's kind of how you start to craft what your product really looks like in that ideation stage. So getting out there and talking to customers.
You know what I really like about, there's so many things about what you have to say that I think people will have to listen a couple of times to unpack, how significant what you're saying is, and not to be too attached with your initial idea because it's going to pivot. But one of the distinctions that I think is so important that you talked about was that the initial product was for students and ended up being bigger than students. And I think a lot of people right now don't realize that students are of all ages. There's so many people going back to school that I think there's a bias that students are between the ages of 18 and 25. And for those listening, I want you to think of students being anywhere from 18 to probably 65. Just want to kind of throw that in there. So let's talk a little bit about, you helping markets get an entry point. Are you still using that skill set in your work with Upstate Venture Connect, or what? Being able to have an idea is one thing, but actually going into a new market, especially an international market, wow, that's quite a gift. So what can we learn about that process and how you're applying it to perhaps Upstate New York?
Yeah, great question. So truthfully, not as much as I used to. So early in my career, what happened is, I'm just going to pivot here for a minute because it's an interesting story. So all of my undergraduate and graduate education was actually gearing me up where I was looking to join the U.S. government. So specifically, I was actually looking to join the CIA. So a lot of my interest early on, I know I say that now because it doesn't matter because I know I will never join the CIA. But yeah, so a lot of my interest and work early on was kind of geared toward that. And then that ended up not really panning out. So I joined this nonprofit that was working with a lot of international companies and helping expand them into the U.S. market. So it was mostly working with companies that were in Eastern Europe and helping bring them and exploring different partners and through universities, customers, investors, and just general partnerships in the U.S. so that they can continue to grow their business. So it was a really unique program and everything that I was working on. And then eventually that's kind of what kicked it off, my interest in like working in tech and startups, and you kind of know the rest of the story. So now kind of what I'm more focused on is, now that I've kind of come full circle and I started my own company, it was acquired. The organization I joined now, Upstate Venture Connect, is really more geared toward helping companies thrive in upstate New York, because it can be a daunting place to start a business. It's easy to think you have to move to New York City, you have to move to Silicon Valley to be a successful entrepreneur. And now a lot of the work that I'm trying to do is to help founders here just really grow and succeed in this area, and help educate people that are interested in becoming an entrepreneur, starting their own business, letting them know you don't have to move away to start a business in upstate New York. There's so much that our region has to offer. So I don't do as much now with expanding kind of more tactically, working with companies and expanding them into the new markets, just because of the nature of UVC, and it's really more geared toward helping connect with the resources that we have available here for companies that are headquartered in upstate New York. And then of course my role at StartFast too. I am the vice president at StartFast Ventures, which is a traditional venture capital fund investing in companies outside of major VC hubs, with a strong portfolio of companies here too in upstate New York. So, and with that, a lot of my work is just, that's where I kind of more hands-on might work with some of our portfolio companies to help guide them, but it's less in terms of trying to, jump in and help them expand into new markets, and more into like, how can we bring you to the next level, and how can we continue to catapult your growth? And it doesn't always necessarily mean new markets. It could be kind of going deeper where you are and building out your revenue that way.
I mean, the understudy of a CIA agent on the team to do customer discovery and depth analysis makes so much sense. And how lucky are we to have that intensity available for us. Also, I think you and I have both traveled internationally, and I think it's interesting that sometimes people still think regionally, but, with a website and everything is kind of a global view. So how can we together help people that are local expand their mind view of how, even if you go on LinkedIn, there's 500 million people in LinkedIn in 89 countries. Mm-hmm. How can we help just that mindset growth in our community?
Yeah, so it's interesting because you think of now how much easier it is to get in touch with, whether it's, target customers, investors, whatever, because really the internet has made it so easy to just find the right people to connect with. And, Zoom, and now that everything, since the pandemic that we've kind of turned away from, it's less, in-person meetings and more like how can we connect remotely and how can we just like quickly hop on a Zoom. All of these tools make it so much easier so that if you are looking to either expand globally or find new partners overseas, it's so much easier to use these tools to set up, meetings and find times to connect with different folks. So, I mean, it's never been easier, I think, in our lifetime now to start and to think about like where your business, how it could grow internationally and connect with different partners, just because of like exactly what you said with LinkedIn being the tool that it is, that you can really narrow down into where people are in the world to connect with them. And really the only thing you have holding you back now is the time zone difference. So it's never been easier to do these types of things and to really create, like, either if it's global workforces or global companies, to do those types of things given the tools that we have available to us.
That's exciting. Is there a company in Start Fast right now that you're particularly excited about that we can learn about?
Oh, there's so many. So just because we were on the topic of cybersecurity a little bit, and with me talking about my background and interest in defense, we have a portfolio company. It's called Blackbird.ai. Really amazing, two amazing founders, and they're based also in Rochester, New York too. And what they're doing is essentially they're helping a lot of brands combat disinformation campaigns, and they're also working with the U.S. government as well. So it's such a timely product, and they're just these guys. I mean, the company is just taking off like a rocket ship. So if you're at all interested in that world and in trying to help combat like disinformation and misinformation campaigns that are happening and how that's affecting not just, governments, but also like private companies too. They're hiring like crazy. So it's a great time to join their rocket ship.
Wow, that's really, really exciting. How else, we're starting, I think we have a really strong relationship with VCs that are in New York City. And I think part of Marl and part of what I'm doing is trying to get a little bit more traction from some of the West Coast VCs. What are some things we as a community need to continue to do better to be geared up for more sophistication looking at our market?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and something I'm thinking about and tackling almost daily is like, how can we bring more attention to the amazing companies that are here in upstate New York, right? And letting investors in the Bay Area, New York City know. I think on our part, it does require that extra lift and work. We can't expect them to just come to us looking for deals. Like, while that can happen, where there are maybe with the trends and funds looking outside of major cities, because valuations kind of are a little bit more reasonable. They tend to be, but I think a lot of it requires the effort on our part as kind of community leaders to help kind of fight for these companies so that they are on the radar of these bigger funds that might be outside of our region, right? And it's always going to be something that I think we're going to be having to keep working at and coming up against to help showcase, because now it's like we're at a point now in upstate New York where we have, multiple unicorns in Buffalo, in Syracuse, in Albany. Like we, as our region, as we kind of look at it over the past 10 years or so, have grown so much. And even from the time when I started my company to now, like at UVC, we're tracking over 500 founders across upstate New York that are all leading and growing venture-backed businesses. So it's never been a better time than now to be a founder in upstate New York, and us as the leaders of this community. I think we can always be kind of helping uplift these founders so that we're working with different funds outside of our region so that they know about the amazing things that are happening here in upstate New York.
I think of when Nazar gave his talk, we had a couple sound bites that ended up doing really, really, I think you have a couple in there that I think we will definitely highlight. And so as people are listening, not only is your role as a startup to have a great idea and build a great team and really understand the language of fundability and scale, but you also have a role to play in amplification of the community, amplifying the people that have mentored you, amplify what you're reading so that we can also learn the bench strength. And really, I love your comment is really we all have a stake in the storytelling, essentially. Did I hear you correctly?
No, but that is so true. We do have a stake in the storytelling, right? And it's like in exactly what you just said. It's like we like, and this is kind of where I'm in my career, and what I hope that a lot of other founders will see too is like, how can we help the person next to us, right? And how can we help them succeed too? And it's like I was fortunate where I had amazing investors that kind of helped uplift me through my journey. As a founder, and it's like now I want to be able to give back to my community so that I can do that for the next batch of founders so that they can grow and succeed too. And it's like, how can we instill that mindset into founders across upstate New York so that it's not you're not asking for something, you're giving something first, and that's your first inclination.
Wow. Can you share, just from an insight perspective, I kind of, as I'm winding this interview down and can't wait to have dinner with you very, very soon, is there a particular soundbite or a particular feedback that you'd gotten from someone that in kind of coaching you when you were getting ready for your sale? And then after that, I would really like to know, when you are so inspiring and work with students and first-time founders, what is the most common piece of feedback that you give them for them to be able to take things to the next level?
Yeah. So for the latter, I think one thing for our Upstate Venture Connects founder and chairman, Martin Babnick, often says he said it to me, and I've heard him say it to other founders too, is you want to work on the business, not in the business. And I think as founders, that's something that you constantly have to think about, because it's easy to get really lost in the day-to-day of what you're working on and not necessarily thinking about growth, hiring, training, and just leading your business to the next stage. And that's what's really going to differentiate you and help you evolve as a CEO and a founder to lead your company at different stages. Just being able to pull yourself back from the day-to-day grind and being able to see the bigger picture of where your business needs to go.
That's great. Upstate Venture Connect, UVC.org, has an incredible event calendar that allows you to see all of the startup activity between Albany and Buffalo. There's also the UNY 50, which actually, as Olivia had mentioned, some of the founders that they're tracking, they have an incredible network of founders that are very generous and very experienced. So if you need to get in touch with Olivia at UVC.org. Is that right? Is that okay?
Yes, Olivia at UVC.org.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. I'm so thankful that you joined us today, Olivia. I appreciate you, and I look forward to working and collaborating with you more. I'd also like to thank Startup Grind Rochester, Upstate Venture Connect, Upstate Capital of New York, NextCore, RIT, University of Rochester, and many others who are partnering with Marl Startup Studio in collaboration with the community to support entrepreneurship and this tipping point that we have right now in Rochester. I'd also like to thank our producer, Scott Fitzgerald at Rockvox Studios. If you have an idea and want to know more about our program, connect with me, Jennifer, at marlaccelerator.com. Please subscribe to our program, and we'll continue to provide you information and inspiration about taking your idea from a concept to a business. This is Jennifer Sertl. Thanks for joining us.